Why did you note the freak out of a relationship? After dating this girl for about a year, her parents surprised me with a contract stating I would propose to my GF within 3 months. I thought my GF would share my concern, but she actually thought I was being irrational for not signing. Nope, the freak out tap that one and later blocked that entire family from my life in every way I could. She bit me twice, once on my arm and then on my ass. These were not fun. Love bites. We were in an argument and the crazy broad got violent. Took a chunk out of both places. I finally slapped her so she would release her jaw from my ass. She was shocked. She called the cops. They showed up and arrested her. I was the one bleeding after all. I didn't wash a bowl in the sink before work. I said I went to do it, but got distracted and I didn't. He decided to teach me a lesson by speeding the car up and then slamming the brakes on and stopped before hitting the car in front of us. Stopped at the lights. They turned to me and said I was going to smash into them, but I didn't. Yeah, he didn't last long after that. It was weird, and looking back it didn't make sense what he said, but it scared the crap out of me at the time. I called her pretty. She did not like this. She got quite angry, then tweeted something to the tune of "Every girl deserves to be called beautiful every day." She thought I had to pay for everything when her friends tagged along. Made her friends hate me, and we broke up later. My ex said if I was locking the bathroom door, I was probably hiding something from him. And a couple of times he pretended to break up with me to see my reaction. When I cried he laughed at me and said he was glad I cared about him. What a mature 30-year-old man. I'm glad he is not a part of my life anymore. I had a girl request that we have sex outside, in the woods. We met online, naturally. Anyway, we head out to a nice spot and do the deed. She begins sobbing after. I ask her if everything is alright, and she reassures me that it is. Then proceeds to tell me about how she was raped in the woods a couple years back, while continuing to sob. She pulled out a knife and started running in circles around the house with it. I was on a bus back home the next day. Edit. I guess I should provide a little context. The short version. Right before that, she was mad about something her cousin had done, so she came in to complain to me about it. I was busy reading Harry Potter and not listening to what she was saying, so she hauled off and punched me in the balls. She immediately had my attention. I jumped up, "Oh, what the freak," and she started to try to punch me. I grabbed her by her tiny wrists and stopped her. She settled down a little and I let her go. Then she went and grabbed a knife and started circling the house. In the end she said she wanted to cut herself and not me, but I wasn't cool with any of that. The long version involved her dad raping her, her mother in prison, she lived with her grandma, she got pregnant, her grandma died of cancer, she lived with a teacher, the teacher kicked her out because we made the sexy times, she lived with my grandma, she lost the baby, we graduated, we got on a bus and moved across the country to live with her aunt, and then the short version. We went to an amusement park and she demanded we rode the same ride 4 times in a row and would throw a fit anytime I suggested anything else. The line for that ride was over 2 hours each time and we basically waited in lines for the whole day. I was admitted to hospital after nearly having a heart attack. He texted me, asked what I was up to. I told him I was in emergency care, that I had almost died, and I was extremely upset. It was 2 AM. He replied cool. We dated for a few weeks, and then the night came to get down. Since having sex doesn't happen often for me, I don't typically keep a condom in my wallet or on my person. She says she wants to freak, and I tell her I don't have a condom. To which she replies it's fine. Being the horny non-thinker I was, I got to work. As I'm ready to come I start pulling out. She grabs my hips and pulls me back inside her and says in me. And of course, that being the hottest thing I've ever heard a woman say to me, I finish inside her. A few weeks go by, and she tells me she's late and to be prepared to be a father. Not the most ideal situation, but I put myself in it. I'm going to see it through. Another 2 days go by, and she's in tears. I ask what the matter was, and she said she got her period. I looked confused and she yelled, "I wanted to have a child with you, and it didn't work, and now we have to try again." I've never ghosted someone so fast in my life. Man, I was such a dumbass. So many warning signs. She used to disappear and not come home at night, not answer her phone, etc. Then, she got pregnant and broke the news by telling me that she flushed her birth control. I respect a woman's right to choose, so now I have a lovely 12-year-old daughter. I still didn't leave. When my daughter was born, she started doing the same thing again, drinking, screaming, etc. I broke up with her, and we started sharing our daughter one half and one half. A bit later I transferred to university and stupidly decided to give it one more shot. After living at uni with her and our daughter, I found out all of her trips back home were to have an affair. I was like, what the freak? I'm in college, work 2 jobs, take care of the baby, you know. So I noped out. I have had full-time custody of my daughter for 10 years, and her craziness gave me the best gift I have ever received. Not really a relationship, but a first date. I was 19 and a junior in college at the time. One of my TAs asked me out. I believe he was 3 years older than I. He picked me up at my apartment, and I let him in while I finished getting ready. He started telling me how he could teach me so much about the world and life in general, and how I had so much to learn. Blah, blah, blah. Basically, he was saying I was his inferior, but he'd be happy to teach me until I was more at his level. It was really a WTF moment. Why someone would think the way to a girl's heart was to disparage her intelligence and tell her how superior you were. I showed him to the door and locked it behind him. I was seriously waiting for him to fuck with my final grade, but he didn't, which is good, because I would have rained some shit down on his stupid head. I've got a recent one. We'd only been talking for a few days, so at this point there is no commitment or anything really beyond a confirmed mutual interest. Immediately I noticed she was getting a bit clingy in that she wanted to talk on the phone several times a day. So I'm already in establishing boundaries mode right off the bat. Anyway, I was walking home from the store. It had just started raining and my phone battery was almost dead. I had just enough charge left to listen to an audiobook, but not enough for a phone call. This is when she calls me. I begin to explain that I'm walking in the rain and my battery's dead and that I'll call her when I get home. I didn't get to finish the sentence because she starts in with, look, if you don't want to talk to me, just say it and quit wasting my time. Oh, no, you freaking didn't just lay a guilt trip on me for being soaking wet and miserable on the side of the road with a dead battery. I shot back with, don't you even start that shit with me, or I'll never speak to your ass again. She hung up. That sealed the deal. My battery did in fact die on the way home. I log into Facebook, and there's already 3 messages from her. The first one is angry, the next one is apologetic, and the third one is promising never to start drama again. I just blocked her. I check the phone, and there's a bunch of similar texts. She kept texting for a few days after that and eventually gave up. I didn't read any of them. Word to the wise, if there are 2 ways to interpret your motives, and someone always chooses the interpretation that leads to drama, get the freak away. There was no winning in that situation, and that's how it always goes with people like that. If you're the trusting sort like me, the tendency is to take their complaints at face value and try to make things better the next time. It will never happen. I've wasted a lot of time on people like that, and I was pretty proud of myself for finally recognizing those head games on site and putting a stop to it immediately. Told me she couldn't have a baby because something was wrong with her. I thought, oh well, that sucks, but whatever. Constantly asking me about baby related stuff and how she really wants a baby, even though she told me she can't. Started to wonder what was up at this point. Went on holiday for a month, came back, and was still seeing/dating her and talking constantly, but she had blocked me on Facebook. Getting massive red flags at this point. Started acting altogether really weird. Asked her what was going on, and that I just wanted her to be honest. Turned out she was pregnant, and is now a single mother. Think I dodged a bullet. He went through the messages on my phone twice. Each time was after a fight, because he knew I would have ranted to my friend about it. Then he tried starting a fight about what he read. Got harassed by him for 3 months after I ended it. Only stopped when I had to get a police officer to go tell him he's not to be anywhere near me anymore or contact me. Found out his first girlfriend got a restraining order against him for the same reasons. especially frightening when you take into account we were only 17. Her complete inability to leave money in a checking account. She had a frightening compulsion to spend more than we had. I kept thinking that she would settle down once we had a few items for our apartment. After 6 or 7 years I finally realized we could never dig out of the debt we had, and we broke up. I took $10,000 in credit card debt to pay off the guilt I felt for leaving her, and lived in a shack to save up money. Within a year or so I had paid off the bills and started watching my bank account grow and grow. It became a game for me, and I still kept living like a pauper. By the time I met somebody else and proposed, I had so much money that my new wife yelled at me that it was not making interest in my checking account. She was right. But it still broke my heart to see my checking account game get reset. Oh, and we celebrated 17 years of marriage this year. She's a keeper. We were not in a relationship, thank God, but after the first date I had a weird feeling. 2 red flags stood out. He was slightly irritated to learn I was in my 30s, even though he was 40. As in was irritated I was not younger. I look much younger than I am. Not angry irritated, but you could tell he was slightly disappointed. Then when I mentioned how I used to be incredibly gullible and naive, he took quite an interest in that. Too much of an interest. So that night, after I got home I googled him, but couldn't find anything. Talked to my upstairs neighbor about him and showed her a picture. Lucky for me, she knew who he was because he went to school with her ex-husband. Turns out I couldn't find him because he gave me a fake last name. Looked him up using the correct name and what I found made me sick to my stomach. Not only was he almost 10 years older than what he told me, but he also had 1 conviction and 2 arrests for gross sexual imposition of a minor. Read the documents and their physical description matched mine to a T. Hair type, body type, etc. Noped out of that situation really freaking quick and told him never to contact me again. To his credit he never did. She told me a story about how she once had a stalker that would stand in her backyard and stare at her through her window at night and call her and tell her he liked her bra, the color of it, etc. It got weirder when she took me out to her backyard to show me the exact spot where he was standing, even though she claimed to never have seen him. She told me many other wild facts, that she thought it was this guy that went to school with us, but she wouldn't tell me his name, that she got letters from him claiming he was in love with her, things like that, but none of them added up, and it was so completely obviously a lie. The final nail in the 2x4 was when I got a Facebook message from her mom on Facebook, trying to convince me that her daughter was telling the truth, when it was obviously her that got onto her mom's Facebook and sent me the message. I completely ended contact with her after that. He had kinda been a jerk the whole relationship. Couldn't take the blame for anything. Tried convincing me that my parents didn't love me. Told me who I couldn't hang out with. Told what I could and couldn't wear. And I would only go to his house because he felt discriminated against in my house due to the fact my parents hated him. In retrospect, for very good reason. Then, on our 7-month anniversary, he proposed to me. In his dirty car. In a mall parking lot on the bad side of town. My reaction was kind of like my life flashing before my eyes before death. Except it was my future. I saw snippets of a shitty, sad, abusive future with him. So I flat out said no. Took the ring from his hands. Shoved it in his center console. And told him to take me home. He was livid. That's when shit got scary. And fast. Instead of driving me back home. He drove to the neighborhood nearest mine and started driving through the cul-de-sacs at 45 miles per hour, punching his steering wheel and spewing obscenities at me. I told him over and over again, take me home, damn it. But he wouldn't. It was mortifying. Finally, after an hour of sheer terror, he parked at the empty lot at the end of my street and asked me what was going to happen. For the last time, I told him he was going to take me the freak home. So he roared up my street crying and yelling, and as soon as I bust his car door open, he tried to pull me back in. He was much larger and stronger than itty bitty me, and he was using all his strength to force me back inside, and I was using all of mine to get away. I knew that, if I got back inside that car, I would never get back out alive. All the way to my garage he was following me, crying, forcing his arms around me to pull me back into his car. I don't know how, but by the grace of higher powers, I was able to pry away from him, open my garage, and close it with him on the other side, punching the door as it went down. A month later I noped the fuck to the other side of the country. I blocked him and his shitty family on every social media site, and blocked their numbers too. He had told me he would kill me if I ever tried to leave him, and that night easily could have been it. Like and subscribe for more Reddit videos.